Hello, this is Francis Lombard, and here is my second interview during New York Comic Con 2022. This time I talk with Pornsak Pichetshote about a bunch of things, including the Good Asians Harvey Awards win for Book of the Year, and also what he plans on doing for the future. Enjoy! Pornsak, it's the morning after your big win. Congratulations. I know the thing is with these awards, like you won one the Eisner for Good Asian too, and then last night you won a Harvey Award for Best Book of the Year, if I have it right.
Yes you do.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
It doesn't mean any of the books that were also nominated were any less
They were
spectacular.
Oh my God, all the books that were fantastic. Jesus,
Yeah.
there was great books there.
It's really tough. I've always said it's great to be invited to the party.
Yeah.
I really don't care if I win.
Yeah, no, especially for these awards. I thought that for the Eisner, the award for the Eisner is getting nominated because there's all these weird things. Winning is all a weird, Rube Goldberg kind of thing. It's a mixture of popularity, it's a mixture of right place, right time, and all that kind of stuff.
Who votes? Who doesn't vote?
Exactly. So actually, to be nominated, that is the real test of the quality of the book.
Yeah. So, but still, you're up there, and you took a moment to sort of just talk about, what your thoughts were. I don't know if you want to revisit that because
sure.
it was interesting.
I'll be honest, I don't entirely remember everything I said, but I will. I do think I remember the general genre in which my comments were. It's one of the things I've seen in comics, in other entertainment sort of media, where it's a weird thing where you're seeing people of more colors and faiths sort of like being integrated sort of in books now, and certain aspects of the population lose their minds over it. But when it comes to their voices and their perspectives, there's like 1 month of the year where everyone takes the time to sort of talk about that, and the rationale behind that is that this belief that publishers, that studios, and they all have that this is niche material, and because it's niche material, it attracts a niche budget, and so they don't push it with the resources that they do other books that they sort of believe in, because no matter how good they think it is, it's for this very specific audience, and to me, what I really appreciate about Eisners and the Harveys is that it draws a little bit more attention to the book, and it says, well, no, it's not about the niche audience, it's about a general audience, and because there's a cynicism behind that perspective as well, right? There's this idea that it's niche because the experience, this belief that this experience can't transcend beyond the person who directly it is affected by.
The race of the person who's directly,
Yeah, exactly. Or the faith, or the gender, or whatever it may be, that these stories can't transcend. And so there's an implicit cynicism behind that. And so it's heartwarming and encouraging to see awards and sales show that publishers and studios are wrong when you see that. And that's what I tried to sort of tap into a little bit when I had the chance to talk last night. That and it's one of the things I really appreciate about Image. The way that place is set up, it got them launched that any, big book that they believed in got, and they gave us that chance to succeed, where I don't know another publisher would. Like this, I think I said this at the Eisner, this is a book where everybody wants to publish, but I don't think everybody actually believes will sell. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because they don't believe it will sell. They don't allocate the resources to help it sell.
Now, with Image, isn't that like the best place to be? Because there's nobody really there telling you no in a way?
Yes.
They're gonna...
Yeah, but beyond
they can get behind the book.
They can get behind the book. But there's no one telling you no. There's one yes and one no in terms of if the book
gets published,
But then after that, it's sort of all us. But beyond that, though, like, the individuals at Image, they really went all out. They read the book, they liked the book, they felt the need to make sure people know about the book. And that's a little bit, that sort of, that human capital that is being spent, that I sort of really appreciated, and certainly helped make the book be successful.
Well, with how much work it does take to do an Image book, because it is, you're you run the show. To have them knowing that they're 100% plus behind it, that it gets you out of bed when there's a rough day or something ahead of you.
I mean,
that you're like you've already been voted for by them.
By them, by everyone on the internet, by professionals who blurbed it, like everyone. There's not a person who has given a little bit of their voice to sort of promoting the book in any way, shape, or form that gets unseen or is unappreciated, because it really is a game of inches.
And the funny thing is, it's a crime book. Pretty from the start.
Yes.
And in crime stuff, especially your main character, whose name Edison.
Yes.
He's not the nicest guy around.
No, he's not.
No matter where he's coming from.
No, he's not.
His traits just really ain't the greatest things. He's not a likable guy. He's not somebody you get behind and go, oh, he shows,
he's not a
the
role
best
model.
part of. He's not a role model. So to have a book take off like that because you have an anti-hero. And then people still want to read the challenges that he deals with, and he makes his life even difficult for himself as the book proceeds.
And too, and that was certainly one of the reasons to lean into noir, because noir has a history of anti-heroes, and part of the point of the book is that can we have an Asian, a person of color, or a protagonist that's as conflicted, as complicated, as flawed as, the white protagonist that we've had for almost 100 years, that it doesn't, all those problematic characteristics hasn't stopped, Humphrey Bogart from making some of the most classic characters in sort of cinematic history, even though not all, some of them were nice guys, some of them weren't, so that was also part of that, and it's part of what the book is about, that the character didn't have to be perfect to be embraced.
Now, did you read growing up when you started getting into, probably crime or just books and comics? Did you read anything that, you wanted to, that sparked your mind to go down, tell a story about, Edison's?
Honestly, I think that
were you a genre junkie, or was there something you found ages ago?
The early antecedents of it are certainly watching Charlie Chan movies.
Really? You were okay.
When in college I kind of stumbled on them. I thought, oh, this is it was a curiosity more than anything else. Most of my crime knowledge comes from comics. Frank Miller or Cook, and that was certainly later. I think part of getting into comics, and certainly superhero comics, is this realization that it's such a bastard medium that you get exposure to a lot of classic material and classic genres, and you don't necessarily know what you're getting exposed to until later you go through the classes, oh, this is where that came from, and this is where that came from. And so I think when I was younger, there was a lot of crime stuff that was baked into the superhero stuff that I was already reading.
So Charlie Chan, and then what superheroes were you reading?
Oh, God. Certainly a lot of the Batman, Frank Miller, Daredevil, Charlie Chan when I was older. But, most of my crime, most of my appreciation of concept happened later in my life. One of the reasons why I really wanted Will on this book, because, he introduced me to, he recommended my first Chandler novel, and, a lot of that came later on. I think when I started Vertigo is when I really started getting into the crime stuff.
Oh, so he started, telling you about Chandler and all the old classics.
Yeah, I think
when you were there?
It was just, it was, very casual conversation, and even, early on, I was like, all right, what Lew Archer novel should I be reading? And then he'd be like, he'd give me 3, which Philip Marlowe book should I start with? All that kind of stuff. He was one of those early people, and I read, oh God, why am I blanking on his name? He wrote Mystic River.
He's from Boston, as you were talking about.
Dennis Lehane. Lehane, it was while I was at Vertigo, I got started on, it was made from a movie that starred Casey Affleck.
Oh, Gone Baby Gone.
Gone Baby Gone, yes. Wait, is that Gone Baby Gone? Yeah, Gone Baby Gone. Gone Baby Gone, yeah.
Which was some of the first books he did. He had about those two characters showing up.
Yeah.
I think I've read one of them, but I have to go back. For somebody from Massachusetts, Lehane is, I don't know. What I've read, I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. I've always meant to read Mystic River, too. I love that movie, and I wanted to go back and read it. And I think around that same time I read Gone Baby Gone, and love that. But all of that stuff that I read, kind of happened. I think Will turned me on to Bangkok 8. I think Will recommended Bangkok 8 to me, which was like a Thai detective in Bangkok.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, Will's recommended a bunch of crime books to me, and that I feel like I got really more properly educated on it once I
Did Edison come? There's a bit of the Continental Op.
Yes, there's very yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. He's very. There's a very big inspiration of the Continental Op. Part of it was, if you're looking at noir of the time, it's Philip Marlowe and it's the Continental Op. It's the Sam Spade. Those are the three.
Yep.
And
so you Hammett and Marlowe.
Yeah. And so and Marlowe is so distinctive that if you try, it turns into self-parody very easily if you're not careful. And the thing I liked about the Continental Op is it had a very lean prose style that had a very fixed point of view. There were a lot of stories, and the story Dead Yellow Women was a Continental Op, and that was a Chinatown. That was a Chinatown noir. So the Continental Op felt like a good place to base the character. Sam Spade to me. Sam Spade was only really one. Was it only one novel with Sam Spade? There's Maltese Falcon. I know there was a bunch of short stories.
Short stories. I think there's another one.
Is there another?
Yeah, I think there's a few others.
Okay. But for me, the Continental Op, it was the Dane Curse, Red Harvest, a bunch of short stories, and that gave me a big wealth to draw from. It's like, I think if I go down this vein from the character, it will, it provides a nice template that will not hopefully lead me into self-parody.
Yeah, and he's a character that has influenced so many others, and I think maybe because there is a bit of an anti-hero, there's an everyman aspect to him too. He's not the brightest guy a lot of the times, but he just persists.
Yeah, 100%. He's a tank. He just he's dogged. He's dogged in a different way than Philip Marlowe is dogged. So there is something, you never even know his name. Yeah. So there's something that's very appealing.
Well, there's that idea that you don't know his name is that the reader can place himself there a lot more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did you find when you read those stories for the first time, did you connect with it?
That's a good question. I don't know if I connected with it anymore because of that open slate
or the POV that he provided. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't. I might have. I can't.
Or was there a sense of wish fulfillment?
I don't know if it was wish fulfillment per se. I think there's just something. I mean, because to me, my favorite Continental Op story is Red Harvest, and there is just something about that propulsion that's in Red Harvest that I love, and I love the fact that he had attitude. The fact that, and that this definitely influenced the good Asian. The fact that for so much of the Red Harvest is he was just pissed off, and he's like, they treated me bad, so I'm just gonna, the next 2/3 of the novel happens because they treated him bad.
And it did seem like Edison was driven by a lot of anger.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially when you first couple of issues.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, this is the guy we're gonna root for.
Yeah, he is. He's a very angry person.
I mean, that was intentional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, again, it was. I like to think I wasn't doing anything that was too out of bounds. The original noirs, the original pulp sort of that you saw in the original pulp detectives. And again, the goal was, most of the times when you see Asian protagonists now, they kind of have to be perfect. They have to be the nice guy. They have to be likable and all that sort of stuff. And and part of it, and it's part of what the book is about, is that an Asian protagonist doesn't get the same luxury to be complicated and to be messy. And so I wanted him to be messy, but I also wanted you to root for him and be compelled by him. Again, the same way that I was compelled, and all those anti-heroes became sort of classics of cinema and literature, despite the fact that they had flaws. And I think that's kind of was the goal for Edison Park, was that, despite his flaws, you relate to him and you root for him, and hopefully too, as horrible as some of the stuff he does is, the opposite end that we tried to do as much as we can is just sort of say, well, this is part of his environment, and so what were his options? This was what he was trying to do, and this is what he had to kind of be to survive. And what were his, he made perhaps a bad choice out of naivety very early on in his life about wanting to be a police officer, which was, that's based on, history. There were Asian men who wanted to be police officers and were police officers at that time. And then it was just kind of unraveling the consequences of that. So.
Do you think as the world gets smaller, and there was this influx of films from Hong Kong in the 90s, and that's sort of gone away, but now you have Korean crime films coming in. Do you think it really matters if American, well, probably does. I mean, because Americans is such a, it does, I guess. I don't know. But it just, you're already seeing characters that are done by, I don't know, that are flawed and everything from other countries coming in. But it's not a mass media. It's not getting the push that you get in America from our media, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, like, you know, I'm not one of those people, but like, you know, you can't underestimate the reach and the power of Korean soap operas, you know, like Squid Game or anything like that.
Yeah, the success of Squid Game. Yeah.
But again, for me, it was trying to take that one step further of, yes, but those are still Korean and they're Japanese. Like, I very much wanted someone Asian American and that particular texture, and to delineate the distinction between Asian and Asian American because they are so often conflated.
Because it goes back to the research you did, and of what was going on, what had gone on 50 years ago with the United States government actually making it illegal to be Chinese in a country.
Yes.
You know, these films that are coming over don't have that kind of background.
Right.
And the experience that somebody like who's Asian American would have growing up. What's going on now. Right. You know, but still history does reverberate.
Yeah, history does reverberate. But also too, like, you know, and again, it's a confliction that we've made, right? Like, you know, when we will take if we look at a Nigerian film, we don't say, oh, that's a great representation of the black experience. Like, you know, we don't say, like, I bet, you know, black audiences are happy because of this great Nigerian film. But there is that mistake that we made. It says, oh, but we've got all this great Korean cinema. Why are Asian Americans dissatisfied that there isn't more for them? Yeah,
I see what you're saying. I think what I was saying is just the representation being on the screen. But you're right. It's still not the people who have, you know, from this country who are Americans
and I think,
have this representation.
Yeah, and I think that's what it means. Like, one of the things we're seeing people, you know, we're seeing a superficial sort of thing of people of different colors sort of being there. But the next step is like, well, let's talk about their stories. Let's talk about their perspectives. And when you do that, you realize, well, okay, well, the perspective of a Korean and a Korean American are two vastly different things. Yes. And can we get into more specificity of what a Korean American perspective is, and how this might inform this story, and how this might change this other story?
Yeah, that's you're stand corrected. I was just trying to. I guess it was pretty much a reach because it varies. I mean, it's a great different experience.
Yeah.
It's huge.
But to your point, though, I do think the influence of Asian sort of like cinema, like, you know,
I guess maybe it makes it easier for executives to understand that it doesn't really matter who's up on the screen other than you're telling a really good story. But maybe not. I know.
Or at the very least, people aren't as intimidated by subtitles.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's a game of inches if you win. I mean, like, it's funny. Like, I guess one of the things I hadn't thought about, like when we were talking about early like crime influence, like Hong Kong cinema was a huge sort of, you know, John Woo and Chow Yun-fat, like those were definitely sort of big influences, you know, on me, on the book, and all that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, what do you do now?
It's a really good question.
I mean, you were saying last night, I was like, have I peaked already?
Yeah, I mean, I might have.
The worst part of it, right? You know, it's like what Neil Gaiman had said.
Yeah.
It's like 20 years ago, I got lifetime achievement, and I'm only 40.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You guys trying to tell me something? It's like time to get out.
It's a really good question. I don't totally know the answer. I am working on a Dead Boy Detectives mini right now for Black Label, and that is, there's some Asian stuff in there, there's some ghosts in there, there's some detectives in there, so it's kind of a mix of a bunch of things that I've done before, but also some new stuff too, because it's a little bit more of like a YA story, and it's a YA horror story, and I'm having fun juxtaposing those two very different things. I'm about to start the research on the sequel to The Good Asian. It has proved a lot trickier than I thought, but we're getting there. I'm getting there. So there's that. And I've got a couple other, and I've got some TV stuff that I'm doing on as well. And so it's just, I told myself this was the year to act like a professional writer where they juggle multiple projects. So I'm trying that, and it's really stressful is what I've learned.
Now, do you feel, you've done horror, you've done crime. I mean, obviously you're happy with those, swimming in those pools.
Yeah.
Is there something like a dream project you would like to see get done?
Oh, God.
That, you know, a different genre that you would like to
I constantly want to experiment. I would constantly like to experiment with genres.
Yeah. Are you like mixing them up or something?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dead Boy Detectives again is a little bit horror, a little bit crime, mostly a YA story. So I'm looking at and
that's coming from Sandman Universe,
yes,
right?
It's coming from Sandman Universe. Sandman Universe, Dead Boy Detectives. It's actually it's a long mouthful. But then I've got some other things that I'm looking at that will be different genres as well. It's something I definitely want to try. with my creator own work, I do want to try to branch out and play around with as many genres as I can. So, and I do have, when I think of like dream projects, I've got a couple dream projects, but for me, those dream projects are usually things I haven't figured out how to crack.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're churning in the back, kick around the back of my head until I can really figure out how to crack that. Like, you know, the Good Asian was kicking around the back of my head for a while. It's like, and I think for me, it was maybe less how to crack it, and more just like the daunting amount of research that cracking it involved. And so I've got a couple of that. I have a Superman horror story that I would love to do someday.
There you go.
But that's probably the closest thing I have to like something concrete that
Well, and we've talked about this before, of like the work that you have to do and the balancing and the switching gears. And you said you're like, I gotta pretend to be a professional writer this time and dive into it. Do you feel work for hire makes it a little bit easier, because especially with a character like in the Sandman universe or Superman, that the research has been done in a way.
Yeah.
The world building's already there for you to get in there and do it. Even your DC short story you did with the Atom. The character was already ready made for you. You just have to sort of know about it.
I mean, I think it's less work. It's still work, right? Because you're still. You want to be like, even though the character's already created, a lot of stuff, especially for these corporate characters, this has been around for a while. It's like distilling whose voice is the voice of the character, and then it's about remaining faithful to the voice of the character. And so that is certainly work. It is less work than creating a character from scratch and like making sure that character is three-dimensional. And so that's a lot of work. But one of the things I found certainly is, an 8-page story is the same amount of work as a 24-page story, which might be the same amount of work, honestly, as like a 3 to 5-issue story, because like the hard work is creating the characters and making them, a good approximation of real, with all the nuances that a real character should have.
Well, it sounds like you gotta, jumping right into 2023.
Yeah.
I don't know how much better it needs to be after coming off this season.
We'll see.
And the positivity that's come your way, and people, knowing that it sounds like you did something right.
That's been really great. That's been really great. I have no idea what to expect now or what anyone will think, so we'll see how it goes.
People seem to have the confidence, and you should have it too. So.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see about that.
But congratulations on last night again, and on everything and the success. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So thank you, and have a great New York Comic Con. One more day.
One more day. I know we're almost at the end of it.
See you later.
All right, see ya.